Wednesday teaching tip. Today's tip is part 2 in a series of Introduction to Reader's Workshop lessons that I'll be sharing with you over the next few weeks. Okay, so today's lesson is about learning how to become a word detective. A lot of times, readers fall back on the old sound it out method to figure out a word that they don't know while they're reading. The sound it out method is good until you get into a little bit more complex stories. And then sound it out doesn't happen. You'll see here in our lesson today. So you need to figure out another way to help your reader with words that they are unfamiliar with, that they don't know. Like our definition last week, we talked about what reading is, and we started to define reading. We said reading is sounding out words, but it's also understanding what you read. And so today's lesson is about understanding what you read by using context clues. Context comes from a Latin word contextus, meaning interwoven. So we're going to find some clues that are interwoven in the story. Now, these clues can actually be interwoven in the word itself. The clues can be interwoven in the sentence, in the paragraph, or the page or book that it's in. And so we're going to look for clues throughout the story to help us with a word we come across that we may not know. All right, so to get started, I'm going to use Red Riding Hood by James Marshall. Now, when you're doing this lesson, you don't have to use any particular grade level book. You're just showing your reader how to, when you come across a word, how to figure it out, how to figure out its meaning, how to figure out how to say it. And so I use this book. This lesson is geared for anyone from K through 5th grade, but you can also use it for struggling readers that are in 7th, 8th, 9th grade. All right, so with Little Red Riding Hood by James Marshall, I'm going to skip ahead because we're kind of familiar with the story, so I'm going to get, in the interest of time, I'm going to get straight to this lesson. And here it says, beyond the forest, they came to a patch of sunflowers. Why not pick a few, suggested the wolf. Grannies love flowers, you know. Well, while Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty bouquet, the clever wolf hurried on ahead to Granny's house. All right, so normally when your reader is coming across the word bouquet and they try and sound it out, they're going to say bouquet. Even if they do sound it out and say bouquet, it still may not help them. So you're going to have to share with them this lesson about looking for clues. So first we're going to look at the word itself. So the word bouquet, if I break it apart and I look at its parts, there's really nothing there that helps me figure out what it means. Now I'm going to look at it within the sentence. But while Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty bouquet, the clever wolf hurried on ahead to Granny's house. So there are some clues there. It said Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty bouquet. So a bouquet is something pretty that you pick. Still might not be enough information. So I'm going to look into the sentences before the paragraph that it's in or on the page. Beyond the forest, they came to a patch of sunflowers. There's another clue. They came to a patch of sunflowers. Why not pick a few? The wolf suggested. Grannies love flowers, you know. So Red Riding Hood was picking some sunflowers, picking a few sunflowers. So it's not just one, it's a few. So bouquet must mean a few flowers that you gather together. Okay, so now let me see if that fits. While Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty group, a few flowers, the clever wolf hurried on ahead to Granny's house. That works. So you're helping your reader. This is a slow motion way of showing your reader what they're going to do as they read. Of course, once they get the idea of how to do this, they're going to do it a little bit more quickly. It becomes more automatic. But you're walking them through this step of using context clues. All right, so then the next word here is the word horrid. Now, I've used what's called highlighters tape. You can get this at teacher supply stores. You can order it online. And I used the highlighter tape so I don't ruin my books, but it helps me highlight words that I'm using for a lesson, or your students can highlight when they come to a word they don't know, and you can work through it with them. All right, so surprise, cried the wolf. Granny was furious at having her reading interrupted. Get out of here, you horrid thing, she cried. All right, so the word is horrid, and maybe your reader hasn't heard that word before, and either they had trouble sounding it out or they have trouble thinking it out. They're not really sure what that word means. Now, this one, within the word horrid, there is a clue. Well, the clue is horrid sounds like a word that I already know. Horrid sounds like horror, like those scary movies. Horrid sounds like horrible. And I know both of those words kind of have a negative connotation. They both sound bad or scary, horrible, horror movie. So horrid must be something bad. So I'm going to use the word bad. I'm going to place it in here and see if that works. Surprise, cried the wolf. Granny was furious at having her reading interrupted. Get out of here, you bad thing, she cried. Get out of here, you terrible thing, she cried. So horrid must mean bad or terrible. It fits here. A wolf enters her house. She's reading. He interrupts her. That makes a lot of sense. So when your reader comes across a word they don't know, you can help them sound it out. If helping them sound it out doesn't help them make sense of what they're reading, remember that you can use context clues to help them figure it out. Because remember, part of our definition of reading, the important part of it, is also being able to understand what you're reading. And that's what this lesson helps to do. All right, so that's it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next week with another sample lesson for Reader's Workshop.